Is it possible that personal growth can happen way too quickly that you're not prepared for it? That's kind of what has been going through my mind recently, because I've been making so much amazing progress that I think, are things going too fast? And I want to say no. And I think everyone is different. So let's drill down into this. When we actually are talking about self-improvement, you're making a lot of changes, or even just with physical health as well. Are you pushing yourself too hard? Are you straining too hard? There's always moderation of how you need to go about dealing with problems in your life, going about physical challenges, whether it be like exercising, working out and doing like weightlifting. Even if you're doing that, you just don't just jump right into like, it's a gradual thing with everything. But I think just there are times within your life that things happen very rapidly, on a very rapid scale. And that is where I am in my life. There's so many of these rapid changes that are happening that it is just like, wow. Okay, it's just wow. So I've thought, am I moving too fast? Is this going to backfire in some sort of way? Because I've had realizations about bad habits that I've had, ways that I interpret situations, and immediately I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to change it. Just like that, immediately I'm just kind of done with those old ways, and I really, for the most part, have not been going back to them. It's almost like I immediately just say no to those old ways, those old habits. Instead of just like pushing them out or blocking them out, I address them, I focus on them, and it's like, bye-bye, it's done. And then I don't really repeat it. Or if I do repeat it, it's on a relatively lower scale. And then I have the coping mechanisms necessary to say, hey, look, you're starting to repeat this again, so to stop it. And then I stop. It's just like, wow. So what sort of things am I doing this for exactly? Well, as we talk about a lot of my own personal growth, a lot of my own personal realizations when it comes to not going with the flow. It's been easier now, far easier, to just go along with the flow of life, of what life is saying. So life is saying things may not look the way that you anticipated, but if you just go along with the flow and just accept how it is, I've just noticed this in many different areas. Things that would normally get me quite frustrated still get me frustrated, but far less. Like if the intensity was like 8 out of 10 before, it's now maybe like 4 out of 10. So it is literally dropped by half. And at that point, I'm able to like, it's not all that big of a deal, Or other situations where I have expectations upon other people. If I send a message to someone, if I'm talking with someone, I used to expect them to behave a certain way. And because of various situations in my life as of late, I've withdrawn from that and basically said, you know what? There's not going to be any expectations. And then, what does life do? Life shows me, surprise, here's some surprises for you. And it's like, oh my gosh. It's like I let go. I kind of said, you know what? I'm not going to have expectations. So, and then life is like, here's your present. Here's your surprise. Because I'm not someone who can be surprised easily. So when I get surprised, it's like, whoa. Whoa. So, interesting. Another thing, a very recent thing as well, this sort of connection that I've made with certain people, like I would make these connections between people that there is no connection there. But if you actually look at it, you could say, oh, that does seem very suspicious. That does seem very weird. It's too coincidental, if that makes sense. Because there was an incident that happened this morning where there was someone who reached out to me, and it's like almost identical to like someone else. If that makes sense. Like almost the same name, the same the zodiac sign, the same certain situations here. And I'm like, is this the same? So my mind immediately is going, I am very suspicious now of this person and the other person that I was talking to. Very suspicious, very creeped out, very weird. Rightfully so, because there's a lot of things that are just like, come on now. You're even talking about the same thing me and this other person was talking about as well. I mean, if you just receive some random message from a random person that is very similar to the person you were talking to, and they start talking about the same thing you were talking about with this other person, you'd be like, that seems a bit shady. However, while I may think that in my mind, and maybe that is true, I don't know. I doubt it though, because of many other factors involved. I realize now I'm not going to jump to conclusions, because what that used to do in the past is it used to alter the way that I would behave around these people, which ultimately ended in the friendship ending in some sort of way. So think about that for a moment. If you become suspicious of some people, you may alter your approach to talking with them. You may not talk with them the same way that you did before. And then maybe they start to sense that and go, this person's acting kind of weird. They're acting kind of strange now. Maybe they seem a bit more distant. Maybe they seem a bit more cold. They're not really behaving the same way. And then they just kind of start withdrawing from you, and then they stop talking with you. That's what's happened to me before as well, where I start to get kind of weird because I start getting suspicious and paranoid of the other person for whatever reason, and then they end up stopping. So I'm just like, okay, I need to stop this immediately. And I think that is why life presented this to me this morning. You know, it was like this realization. It was like, hey, you've gone through so much healing over these past few months, but you're not done yet. We're going to throw something right here that's going to be like, these two people, they're going to be almost identical. Maybe they even look alike. You're going to think that they're the same person, but now it's your time to say, you're not going to alter your approach, and you're going to heal from the paranoia or suspiciousness that you have, and just wait till you have all the information before you jump to any conclusions. That was my realization this morning. And this one is a little bit harder to just say, no, I'm done. But, yep, just making the progress towards that goal. It's very interesting to think about. So that's kind of the journey that I'm on. So I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on the matter, and if you think it's possible to be healing too quickly, and if so, what can you do about that? For me, I'm just going along with the flow of however life is. So that's all. Take care. Bye-bye.